Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. One Word Conversations is a self-discovery, relationship-building conversation designed to invite us, me and you, to look at our language and how we're communicating with each other. Many times, words don't just come with definitions. They come with energies and stories and expectations. And sometimes we can pick up all of the words, all of the beautiful words that we can think of, and still find ourselves in a place of disconnection. So, what I'm inviting for you to do is to have a one word conversation so you can learn a little bit more about yourself, the person that you're speaking with, and possibly build on that relationship. One Word Conversations is brought to you by IamWilliamBrown.com, a place to help you be yourself and live your life. One way that I spotlight what's available at I Am William Brown, the store, is our U cards. Our U cards are intention setting cards. They're a game, they are a journal prompt, and they are a part of the Beyond the Shell series. Beyond the Shell series is 2 children's books and a journal. The books are The Journey to Stay You and Finding You Beyond What Protects You. So, I've picked the cards, and I had to take a breath because the first card that I picked was I Am Brave. The You Are card is You Are Curious, and the quote card is There is no one youer than you. So this is that moment where I invite you to like, share, ask questions. And if you're watching on YouTube, to subscribe so you can be a part of this conversation. So this is one of those episodes where my guest has decided to be surprised with the word live on the air. And I've realized for myself, it kind of stresses me out more than them. They're like excited about it, and it's like, oh, good Lord, hopefully I've done the right thing. So as I do, I bring in my guests so we can have a conversation.
Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning. I am so excited about my word. I'm sorry to hear that you're a little stressed out, but I promise I will roll with it.
Okay, well, wonderful. This is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Yeah, so I am Cristina Roman, and you and I were actually just talking about introductions offline, and I have been introducing myself by my work these days, and that feels really good to me. So that's what I'm
Okay,
going to do.
wonderful.
I am a procrastination coach. So I work with business owners who feel like they have a ton of different stuff going on in their lives, like trying to go in 100 different directions. And they
Right,
just want more focus and clarity. And so
right,
that's my work and that's my passion. I
right.
think about this all day, every day, and it
Wow,
lights me up.
wow.
When you mentioned curiosity, I was like, yep, I feel like I have insatiable amounts of curiosity.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see how that will possibly can come up within this conversation. So
Yeah.
it's like there's without fanfare, the word that I picked for this conversation is simply what. So what? How does the word what land for you?
I love it. I think that was going to be my reaction to any word. What strikes me first is that it's a really powerful standalone word that I want to explore on its own,
Mm-hmm.
but my mind immediately paired it with why, when, how.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
I also get the sense of questioning. Like I think my brain automatically tacks on a question mark,
Right.
and then that sends me into curiosity, which is a perfect tie to the card that you pulled.
Yeah. It was interesting when I picked this word after um, the other word this week of why.
Yeah.
Um, and because it showed up within that conversation, and I said within that conversation that there are many times when I'm following my curiosity, I don't care what it is. I
Mm,
care why it is, right? And because sometimes for me, the what stops me, the why keeps me moving. And there's a more how what lands for me um alone is like a judgment, like,
mm,
what did you just do, right?
mm.
It's like, that's how what was introduced to me. It was like, you have done something wrong, right? Um and I want you to explain it right at this moment, type of thing. And so for me, um, you know, just what I just it really doesn't matter for me what. It's like,
Hmm.
why? And it just kind of go, and I like I said, it's I sometimes I try to make that wrong, I try to, it's like, no, you have to figure out what it is, right? But those are, with all of the questioning words that come up, what is the least of my worries?
Huh. That's really interesting. I was doing some of my self-coaching work this morning, and what I realized, I was making a what I'm calling my watch list. It's like the thoughts that are gonna keep me away from my goal that I have right now.
Right.
And what I noticed about that watch list is almost every single thought started with "it's."
Hmm.
Like, "It's too hard. It's impossible." And it was so undefined.
Hmm.
I was thinking about this concept, which I have not fleshed out, just so we're clear, but this
Right.
idea that our our limiting beliefs or our defeating thoughts tend to be our most undefined thoughts.
Hmm. Wow.
And when we can bring in the question, well, what does that even mean?
Hmm.
What is it?
Right.
Right? What, like once we can bring in the question of what, it gives our brain specificity
Hmm.
that I think actually settles us down.
Wow. It's like maybe that's why there's a lot of confusion in my life, because because of my disconnection of what defining something. Even my conversation about labels, it is living beyond our labels. It is
Mm,
like, okay, um, this is what it is, right? But what's beyond it? But it's beyond that is what's more interesting.
mm,
And so look, I just got access to something for myself that, look, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to make myself wrong, because
yeah,
there's no one newer than you, right? There's a reason why, why is more important to me than what, right? They're both still important, but there
right.
is there is something within my makeup and my design that my inquiry around why kind of keeps me in action. But there is an awareness of the what of the matter is also inviting me to understand some things.
My brain is going in a lot of different directions. What occurred to me as you were talking was the idea that, like, when you kind of half joke about confusion, is I just saw this place where not focusing on the what might create more confusion. Let's say that's true.
Right.
But what it also does is it creates more openness,
Right.
right? So what if confusion and openness are just two sides,
Right.
right? Like if you don't
Mhm.
define the what, you you get to go to a space of openness and possibility, and
Right.
you're like, "Oh, this might actually be confusing for my brain right now."
Right. Right. And just balancing that out. It's like, because
Yeah.
I can tell you most of the confusion in my life, I'll just stay with that.
Yeah.
It's like I've caused it. Right? It's like I look to the origin of it. Okay, where did this start? And it's like, oh yeah, I did that. You know, so, and it is being open. I love that. It is like the other side, or the in partnership with confusion, or the chaos, is the openness. And there is this, and like I said, the beyond, the, you know, have the possibility language, right?
Yeah.
That I I thrive in that level of curiosity, of, you know, not what it is, what else is there, right? There's always more to it. Um, and and so that is, how can I embrace both? Because I will tell you, that has been the challenge for me
Mhm.
with being, a person of possibility, right? Kind of think of, I would say that I'm an opportunist, right?
Mhm.
And it's like always looking for opportunities. And it's like, that has, the good side of that is that there is always something, happening. You're open to, that open comes up again for me again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was this level of guilt and shame that I put around it, that I am not in appreciation of what's in front of me, what's
Mm.
present, what's here.
Right.
So how can I still stay open to possibility?
Yeah.
And so, instead of this or life that I've had,
Right.
um, and also be grateful and have appreciation of what is currently presenting itself to me.
It makes me think of this concept that I've thought a lot about, and I was thinking about this in my own life, is you mentioned opportunities. And I started thinking about things as you can see things as opportunities or temptations.
Right,
And it depends. The same exact thing could be an opportunity or could be a temptation depending on your view of it. And for
right,
me, what it was for me, this is how I kind of started thinking about this, was back when I used to be a recruiter and then I became a life coach. And at that turning point, I was building my business, but I didn't really have a business yet. I didn't have clients. And I had gotten a few like incoming messages from old clients and they were like, "Hey, do you want to take this recruiting job?" And multiple times I had to ask myself, I was like, is this a temptation
mm,
or is this an opportunity? Right. And another
mm,
way I think of that is this taking me closer to what I ultimately want? Or is this a fear based decision
right,
that's actually taking me further away? And in my case,
right,
I was like, it would be comfortable to do recruiting.
right,
Right. My scared ego brain would very much like that.
right, right,
And it was a temptation is what I decided. I was like, it's not taking me closer to what I want.
right. Wow. I um I really felt that, and I am going to use that. Is this an opportunity, or, well, I was going to say distraction. That, for me,
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's a distraction, because it's a distraction of what I want. And
right.
I think most of the times, the reason why, and I guess this is me being brave, the reason why I wasn't able to determine that is because I didn't set a clear intention.
Mhm.
There was a nice to, yeah, I would, it's a good idea to have my own business, but what is my intention? Or my attention around that?
Right.
And without that clear intention, what define what, right?
Yep.
What am I creating, right?
Yeah.
What am I standing for? Then I can get distracted,
Yeah.
and I can miss opportunities, and all of those things
Yeah.
that have shown up for my life. So it definitely has just given me access to, you know some of the confusion that I cause in myself because I'm just not sharing my desires, right? I'm not sharing my intentions.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it sounds like not sharing my intentions with myself, which is such
Right.
a I'm always fascinated by the level at which we don't share information with ourselves,
Hmm.
right? The
Yeah.
level at which we're like, huh, like, and I think, I actually think it goes back perfectly to this idea of like confusion versus openness. Is I think
Right.
about like, on one hand, I have the ability to surprise myself, and I have the ability to delight myself by
Hmm.
finding new information in my own brain. Like, there is nothing that's more exciting to me than being like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I just discovered that in my own mind."
Right.
So there's
Wow.
surprise and delight on one side, but the other side of that is we withhold a ton of information from ourselves,
Right.
right? Including our
Wow.
own intentions.
Right. Wow. Well, and I think that's where, the self-awareness conversation. What are we aware of? There are so many times either my clients or myself, because I'm on this journey,
Yeah.
also it is like, what am I aware of? What am I, embracing the, what I say that I am whole and complete, right? But at the same time, I am not currently aware of my completeness.
Mm.
So it doesn't mean that I'm missing anything. I'm just not aware of everything. And that's how I can be surprised and delighted, you know, or confused by some of the things that I find out about myself, right? Or become aware of myself. And it's like, huh, where did that come from? Right? You know, how exactly am I going to use that? And so I spent more of my time in my life hiding myself from other people and from myself and almost forgetting, because it's like something would come up and it's like, okay, that's not how I want to show up. So that's not a part of me, right?
Yeah.
That's,
Yep.
um, and instead of recognizing that what's coming up right now is something that can be used in this moment if it's there to benefit me. And so, yeah, sometimes that nice guy label, kind of was running the show. It's kind of like, nope, we're not going to do that. Anger, what are you doing up here, right?
Yeah.
Pissed off, go back. And there's this all of these things that I wasn't able to really, I guess, bring to the party
Yeah.
because of what I made it mean,
Yeah.
right? Instead of just being there.
That's really interesting, and I have done a lot of that exploration of myself as well. One thing that I don't know if I would go so far as to say I've embraced, but thought a lot about recently is this idea of being too sensitive.
Hmm.
And I've gotten that, like, I've heard that label from a few people in my life, and I was so defensive, which I was just telling you about my exploration around
Right.
defensiveness before the show. I
Right.
was so defensive about the label too sensitive, and I made it
Hmm.
such a problem. And I started exploring, like, what if, right? Back to our word, what if
Right.
too sensitive is not a problem? Like, what if it's
Hmm.
true and it's not a problem?
Right.
And what if it's
Well.
not true? But that exploration, I actually think to really focus on that question of what if, that gives me so much power is be like, what other options are available to me? Oh, it's available to me to not think that it's a problem that I'm quote unquote too sensitive.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that um, I kind of stay away from what if. Sometimes
Ooh.
it's kind of interesting because, like I said, I get stuck on why.
Yeah.
I
Oh
was
my
I
gosh.
was the
Okay.
Y kid, right? I was the Y kid, right? But it is it's really the when you said like what if in I was going to say insensitive. That's not it. It's too sensitive, right?
Too sensitive, yeah.
Too sensitive. I was like, there's some. It's like because I am so concerned with like my shadows, right? The negative sides of myself. I am trying to embrace, or the things that I label as negative.
Right,
Instead of I'm trying to just take those away. So, what if sensitive is not a bad thing? It's not. It is just an awareness that there is a sensitivity to something, and that it is letting you know that there is care and there is consideration. And it's like the two has nothing to do with you and with everybody else. Because for
right,
me, I um, there's a part of me that played small in my life because I was concerned that other people would think that I was too much, right?
right,
I would be showing up, too much for that. And so then I didn't, because I was concerned about being too much, I didn't show up at all. And
right.
there wasn't much of me, right? You
Yeah,
know, and so it's the same thing with sensitive, it's like, what what is your sensitivity saying, about what's important, to you, what you care about.
have you ever done a conversation about the word "to"?
No, I have
That
not. So
th
that can go on the list.
well, because what it occurs to me is we don't say, "Oh, William was much,"
Right.
right? We don't think there's a nice level of much, right?
Right.
We're like, "He either is or he's too much." It's so
Right.
fascinating or sensitive is a good one, like, we don't really, that often in my experience, talk about, like, "Oh, she's the perfect level of sensitive,"
Right.
right? It's either we
Mm,
don't address it at all and we don't mention it and we don't acknowledge and appreciate it,
right.
or we're like, "It's too much,
Right.
too sensitive."
It's too sensitive. Right.
Yeah,
Wow. And I'm
yeah,
like, what is that all about? Right. You know,
right,
what- I mean, and it's like, it's not even in our language. It's in our understanding of, of it, that there is this like, this way of being that it feels like this is the norm, right? This is how people should show up. This is how people should respond, whatever that
mhm,
is, right? There's this, there's just this understanding that we is, and anytime someone shows up more than that, it's too much, right? It's and it's wow, that would be that's going to be an interesting conversation when we have that, because it is it's just it's stopping me, because it is I'm trying to discover for myself why are what that's all about, and what is that serving by holding someone, or holding myself or other people to like the standard of showing up, right? So
right,
it's like, I want you to be yourself, but don't be too much of yourself, right?
right.
I want you to be nice, but too nice, and then there's question. Somebody that's smiling a lot is like sketchy, right?
Right, or insincere, yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
It's like, okay, you're up to something, right?
Wha
um
well, what I would say there is, like, loop back to our question, what are we afraid of, right?
hmm,
What happens in another person watching you when their thought is, "William's too much," right? Is
right,
it they're intimidated? Is it they're jealous? Is it they're uncomfortable? Like, what is happening for that person
right.
when they're deeming someone else to something?
Right. Wow.
That
Hmm.
makes me think, like, where do I have thoughts about other people that they're too much or too little of something?
Right.
And I think my question for myself would be like, "Why do I care? What is this
Hey,
about me
right.
that I can't tolerate this and that?
There is what's just coming up for me is like what is like um it's not even our language. It is like our brain's language of like you're saying, like identifying. It's like almost, you know, like this default word that it's like um my brain is saying, I have a question about something. It's like, you know, what is this? Because I need to label this. I need to, you know, I need to put this in context. I need to,
Yeah.
you know, there, it just feels like it is so much a part of the machine. I don't know if you've ever heard that language that we're just machines and just kind of
Yeah.
show up. What is so much a part of the machine that it um, it has so much power, or it gives us so much access to the us, and then it separates us at the same time. So it likes kind of makes sense of a thing, and
Mhm.
it causes people to like disconnect. I don't know what that was just a download. I don't know. I don't know what that meant.
What I heard is that it's like it it helps us understand, and it also creates rigidity.
Right. Got it. Hmm.
Does that feel
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, because it just really, because then it feeling staying on the feelings here, it feels like then it's like the cue in the emotions, you know, what was just said. Now the emotions come. Like, you know, it's like, what are my emotions around? Someone just said what? You know, call on the emotions. And then, you know, emotions just go all over the place, after
Right.
that. Um,
I have a question.
yeah,
I want to go back to something that you said, and I think it actually ties probably to the emotions that you just mentioned.
right.
Okay, you game?
I am game. That
You
was the
said
commitment that I said when I said to do this show, that
perfect.
whatever question it comes up, I'm there.
So, and I'm like laughing because I'm like I feel like I'm like on the cusp of being like trying to get into my like convincing energy, which I'll be careful of. But I'm like, why? What is your resistance, or what is your reaction to playing what ifs? Because you said you don't do it, and I'm so curious why not.
Right. I think the I try to stay out of the what ifs for me. Um, it's mainly because it I feel like it's got me in the trouble.
Okay.
It's because it's like, what if this? What if that? It just goes on and on and on.
Mm,
And for and how it would show up, that when I would use it in the past a lot, it was I was overwhelming
mm,
the people that I was communicating with, and overwhelming myself, because I believe I'm an ideal maker, right? It's like ideas come to mind, and it goes, oh yeah, and it's like, what if I could do that and that and that, and then it just kind of overwhelms me, and then my productivity goes down and everything. So I try to stay out of the what if, and just and I think that's why I go to the why. I start That's how I start with why. My why usually starts with me, in the sense that I get a thought, I get an idea, and the question that I ask myself is, why am I getting this right now?
mm,
What is, then there's a what in, what can I do with this, or something, or is this something that I can put some time into? And
mm,
then it just kind of goes through that. But the what if, it's like it goes on repeat for me,
mm.
and it just causes me. Maybe it's just, I don't want to say I was doing it wrong before, but it's like I can see the possibility,
Yeah.
but like I said, but how I've put it in practice, it just overwhelms people and overwhelms myself.
Right.
So I think my level of compassion for people, I don't want to overwhelm people. And it's like, okay, let's find other language that is not overwhelming. So for me, what if shows up as overwhelming for me.
I'm so fascinated by this because I'm thinking about my clients and I'm thinking about how what I experience with a lot of people is for sure overwhelm, right? I'm a procrastination coach. Overwhelm is a huge
Right.
part of it. But the
Right.
other thing that I think is fascinating is that I think a lot of people don't see all the options that are available to them and all the possibilities.
Got it. Mhm.
And what I think of when I think of what if, I think there's the negative association, right? Of like, well, what if, what if, what if? What if this worst case scenario happens?
Right.
I think of it as like, what if I can
Right.
totally hit my goal?
Right.
What if there's 100 people for me to meet on lunch club? Like what and I think of it as actually kind of building an image and a vision for ourselves of all the
Hmm.
possibilities that are open to us
Right.
that I think a lot of people don't see on a daily basis.
Right.
What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
I think as you're saying, I can see the possibility to it. And I think what I would have to do for myself is to manage, maybe
Right,
have like a two what if, and then stop, right?
right.
And then kind of take some action or not. Um, but and I think it goes back to being brave.
Mhm,
It's like sometimes me being open, right? Um, getting access to something.
mhm,
Am I brave enough to take the step? Am
mm,
I brave enough to see how that's going to play out?
mhm.
And I think there is some parts about myself that I'm still kind of understanding and appreciating that I just like, I know myself. If I start on this what if thing, it'll just kind of take me away because for me, this is how procrastination shows up for me.
Right.
Is procrastination is let me think about it a little more,
Yep, yep,
right?
yep.
And so all I have to do is say, you know what? I need a little more information. And now I'm out of
Yes,
action.
yes. Yeah,
And so that's why what if um it triggers me to do that. And I try to, even though I love learning new things, I still look for the possibility.
yeah.
I know that there are some ways, some techniques that I have in that will cause me to not be in action.
Right. That's a really powerful point is that I'm thinking of the people who are like you put something on your calendar and the idea of showing up for it is just kind of like boring and not compelling is I think what if is a really powerful exercise if that's your experience of a
Right.
lot of your days is like okay what if this could be thrilling and compelling and I always say I'm like what if this could be better than hanging out on a beach in Mexico like what if that were true would you
Right.
want to show up to the thing that you have on your
Right.
schedule but I love your point too which is like if your tendency is to spend tons of time in possibility and like paint that dreamy picture for yourself, then
Right.
maybe for you the antidote is decide,
Right.
get into action. Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah. That is, I got this image that I've been sharing with some of the people that I've been coaching and talking to of quicksand. And I know this is not scientifically how quicksand works, but this is the
Mhm.
image that I got. And so
Uh-huh.
it was rapid indecision. And the
Mm,
image that I got was me taking a step forward, taking a step back, and just doing it very quickly until I found myself like deep in the ground
yeah,
because I was just like digging a hole for myself.
yeah,
And it was just like, wow, that's what, make a decision, right?
yeah,
And just go with it.
yeah.
Yes, you may take a pause, but then make another decision and
Uh,
just go. You may stop, but after that, rest or make a decision. And but the rapid indecision is a place where I was showing up, that
Mhm.
it was causing me to be stuck. It was causing me to really then feel like, oh crap, how can I get out of this stuckness that I've created for
Mhm.
myself? And really, until I made a decision to climb out, right, or to find my way out of it, or
Yeah.
to reach my hand up to get help, from it, I was going to stay in what I created because of the rapid indecision
Yeah.
that I was creating. So yeah, so I don't know what's that all about, but but that's the image that but that's the image that I got.
I really like that term rapid indecision. And I like that visual. It's a very strong, it like, I almost get the sense of like it's a very fast energy,
Mhm.
but a little bit frantic.
Right,
And then the irony of it all is you end up stuck.
right,
Yeah,
right,
like, I think sometimes we think, and I experience this where I'm like, "Well, if I just, like," I call it, like, strong arm my way through. If I just strong arm my way through life and I do it all and I throw myself in 100 different directions,
right,
it works for a period, and then I end up in that same place too where I'm like, "Oh my god, I've taken on way too much. Now I'm completely overwhelmed. Now I'm paralyzed." So,
right.
that's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. So I think we can talk about this for hours, right?
Yeah.
But what is it's like what? It's like, what's come up for you within this conversation about what?
It ties to what something I said to you before we started, which is just this idea of, I mean, and also it's the premise, right, of the show is how a simple word can give us an immediate insight into where our mind is and where our emotions are.
Hmm.
Right, and I think it's interesting for anyone listening is, like, if you hear the word "what," does your mind go to confusion, possibility? Does it go to, I guess in simple terms, positive or negative? And
Right,
not making that reaction a problem, but just
right,
noticing, like, where does my brain naturally go first by default? So
right.
that's really interesting to me. Um, and as we were talking, I was just hyper aware of every single time one of us said what.
Yeah,
And sometimes we were aware that we were saying what because we were actively talking about it, but I also was hearing it in all the other subtle ways, which was really fascinating.
right. And I think that's why it came up for me. Is like I think it's just a part of the machine. It's just I
Yeah.
probably say what a lot more than than I think I'm saying what, right?
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's just like, and what is that all about? Right? And there it goes again, right?
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah. Yeah. It also made me think of my favorite question that I've been asking my clients lately, and I've been asking myself, is when we're convinced that something's not working, but we think it worked in the past. So, for example, if someone comes to me and they're like, "Well, I tried this in the past and it worked for a few weeks and then it stopped working." So, think of
right,
like anything in your life where that's your experience. My
right.
favorite question is, "What's the difference?"
Hmm,
And that question makes your brain find like what was happening for the first few weeks that I was trying versus what was happening for the next few weeks that I was trying.
right.
So the
Hmm,
image that popped into my head was like a diet. You could be like,
right.
well,
Wow.
I was working for a few weeks and then it wasn't working. And then what's the difference? And it
Right,
just helps your brain tease apart information. So that was also
right.
on my mind.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
The other thing that just came up for me is because of all of the times what has come up. I think I can advertise this show as a drinking game. So it's like,
Perfect.
hey, the word is what? Every time we say what, drink. And so we'll see how you go. Just
They're going to be
put in the
wasted.
comments.
Good luck to everybody out there.
They're going to be wasted.
That's
So it's
awesome.
like, what are you encouraging right now, William? What are you encouraging, right?
I mean, it's Friday when we're recording this. It's fine.
Right.
Get started a
So
little early.
right. So that is great.
Yeah.
Christina, thank you very much. This This has been great. I know either we're going to talk again or I'll probably use your services as the procrastination coach. And I will put in the comments how to get in touch with you and everything. But yeah, this has definitely been great.
I love the concept. I really appreciate the invitation and thank you for the awesome word. I will be thinking about it for days to come.
For days to come. And
Days to come.
you'll definitely be using it. So we'll just just to see if you'll be thinking about how you're
Absolutely.
using it. Right. Thanks. If we can say goodbye in the green room, that would be great. But
Sure.
this has been wonderful. Oh boy. Oh, what? You know, you know, I think that word came up because of why? Because there's a lot of questioning. And I think that's the conversation around this week, starting off with discernment and then getting into why and what. Um, and yeah, I, how does what and what if and all the ways that what shows up in your language, how does it feel? I love how, Christina, as that we look at the default. What is the emotions that come up when when you hear it or when you are aware that you're saying it? I think that's an interesting exploration. So I hope this conversation has brought value to you, not just to your day, but to your life. I invite you to reach out to me at iamwilliambrown.com for a complimentary coaching session to invite you to be yourself and live your life. Because the world wants you, the world needs you, but the world isn't waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you next time on One More Time.